Thanks for coming back, everyone, for another segment of Michigan Conservative Roundtable. And I came across a very interesting article just the other day, and I asked Mac if he would join me on this one. By the way, I forgot to mention Mac and TJ here. Pardonnez-moi. In any event, the author of this article discusses two scenarios, obviously, if Trump wins or Trump loses in the next year election. And he thinks of possible scenarios in the event of these two. For instance, and I'll say this in starting, in light of what's been said in the last few Democrat debates, you hear the phrase words mean things, and then you always hear about you need to take threats seriously. And words have been said and threats have been made, and they need to be taken seriously. And your thoughts so far on that?
A case in point would be, and we all remember, I don't know what state it was in, but the little boy who ate his Pop-Tart into the shape of a gun, and they called 911, and they freaked out, and the kid got kicked out of school, and so on and so forth, because that threat needed to be taken seriously. Although, no, I don't believe there have ever been any deaths from Pop-Tart guns. But so when a guy comes out and says, hell yes, I'm going to take your gun, what am I supposed to do, just dismiss that?
Well, like I said, threats have been made. They need to be taken seriously. Let's assume Trump wins, which hopefully he will. The left will not go away. They will become more out of control, we'll say. You think about it, leading up to President Trump, the left kind of got used to getting their way, even if a Republican won. They've come to act like spoiled brats. They find that tantrums work.
They do?
Well, yeah. And the theory goes that if President Trump should win re-election next year, they will be even more out of control than what happened the last 3 years with, well, we'll just say it started with Obama while he was still in office. Comey and Brennan and that whole cabal, their actions leading up to President Trump's administration, and then even following the first few months of it, and basically how they tried to do a silent coup on President Trump. It's this author's theory that
no matter what, there's going to be some bloodshed.
It's this author's theory that it's going to be mild in what will then occur. He says it. This author suspects that it's going to be much worse than what we've seen. And here's my concern too. If President Trump wins next year, man, we better make sure we win 2024 then, because if this guy's right, 2024 is only going to be worse. You got Antifa. They've kind of evolved from the basement pajama wearing geeks into he refers to them as balaclava wearing Avengers. They have become the armed resistance of the Democrat Party, and they're going to put us deplorables in our place, and they're going to be pretty dead set on doing exactly that. He believes for instance, look at Portland. And it's just going to spread from Portland. It's going to go to Chicago. San Francisco's almost out of control. You got L.A., Chicago, Baltimore. And so these particular cities, they're going to give almost tacit approval to the Antifas to have at it. It's this author's concern that will only get worse. And at some point, and you know, in a previous video, I did reference Shakespeare saying, take heed how you awake the sleeping sword of war. And at some point, there's going to be a flashpoint, and then it'll be game on. And that's even if President Trump wins. So that would be one scenario if we're fortunate that President Trump wins. Any thoughts?
Well, we can look back on how this has evolved, really. I'll paraphrase Maxine Waters. when speaking to a crowd and kind of a vigilante type speech she was making about how if you see anybody from that administration or anyone from that cabinet, get on top of them, crowd in on them, intimidate them, push in on them, tell them they're not welcome here. And the thing that jumped out at me about that is not the aggressive nature of her instructions, but the tell them they're not welcome here. We're not welcome in our own country? What the hell is that? She gets to decide what we think, what we do. So this has been a pot of coffee that's been brewing a while.
Yeah.
And it's going to be pretty strong when it's done. A lot of emotions on both sides.
Yeah, and that's what he mentions. He does the author of this article. He basically both sides are going to be ramping up. Okay, so that's if President Trump wins. But what if he loses? Well, it's his theory that for starters, the right one, those of us on the right, we're not going to believe that it was not fraudulently that the Democrats didn't cheat.
Because they always do.
Because they always do. And I'm going to mention a few things here. Look how they tried to run that silent coup against President Trump. You know, you go back to the one Bush election with the hanging chads.
Yeah.
I so remember they were doing this so desperately, trying to get chads to break loose so they could count the votes. You know, and and the word is you can't just barely win. You got to win big because of voter fraud.
Okay.
So if that's correct or accurate, the right's always going to question a Democrat win.
Well, they've made it clear that they want illegal people who are illegal in this country illegally to vote.
Yeah, big time.
So why the hell would I think you're not going to cheat when you get a chance?
Next problem would be the D.C. Republican insiders, the never Trumpers, the ones I like to call highbrow.
Mitt Romney.
They prefer losing gracefully over winning ugly. We've talked about this particular topic so many different ways, which is why we voted for Trump, because Trump will win ugly, as opposed, he will never lose gracefully. He will win ugly, if anything. And you know what? I'm fine with that. You know what? Because, and thank you, never Trumpers, because that's kind of where I'm at on that.
Yeah, we've talked about it before, how we're taking the high road, has gotten us zero results.
Taking the high road's gotten us Obama.
It got us Obama for 2 terms.
Yeah.
Taking the high road.
And again, I'm just kind of sharing the thoughts of this author here. He goes 8 years of Obama, and 3 years of watching his slow motion coup, and this goes to what they've done to President Trump the last few years, and basically, again, us pro President Trump people, we're going to get fired up, okay?
You can only get pushed so far.
And in regards to assuming that a Democrat would win, they're going to be emboldened by that victory, and then they're going to follow President Obama's lead. They're going to issue executive orders. You know what? They're just going to follow right in his footsteps. And the big concern is gun control. And when you look at what's just been said recently, thank you, Beto O'Rourke, okay, and I'm sure you can find video clips of it where he says, we're going to take your AR-15, we're going to take your AK-47. Look at San Francisco, the city council saying that NRA is a terrorist organization. And so it's that path of, if you're a gun owner, just by being a gun owner, you can be labeled a terrorist. And this goes back to when I said at the beginning of the video, words mean things. Do you realize you're calling me a terrorist?
Well, it goes hand in hand with you label someone a Nazi. Nazis are bad, everybody hates Nazis, so you can do whatever you want to the Nazi. The person may have done nothing other than disagree with you, and now they're a Nazi, or a white supremacist, or a racist. They label you, and I have a video upcoming, and it's going to be on the possibility of where this could end up, and I believe it could end up in a genocide, if not, if it doesn't go checked. This is serious stuff, folks. That words, like he said, words mean things. Nazi, white supremacist,
And take
terrorist.
threats seriously. I mean, and you know what? And the reason why I keep saying is because how many times do we hear over and over and over again, if someone makes a frivolous threat, well, it's a threat. You need to take it seriously. Guess what? This isn't a frivolous threat, and it's an actual threat, and it needs to be taken seriously.
Well, some on our side will say, yeah, but he's never going to be president anyway, which I believe is true.
Doesn't matter. He exposed him.
Yeah.
You know.
He speaks for others on that stage, in that debate.
And you know, and the theory goes, the supposed buybacks are going to be mandatory buybacks. And by the way, you're not going to get the true value for it anyways. It's going to be another ripoff. And basically, Antifa and those of that mindset are going to, well, they're weapons of war, and it's the will of the people, so you can't have those guns anyway. So you have to subject yourself to the mandatory buyback. Initially, those in the city they may respond because just by virtue of being within Democrat-controlled cities. But when you get to the outlying areas, the rural areas,
Flyover country.
flyover country, it ain't gonna work the same way, and that's where it's gonna get messy. It's gonna get bad. To reference the 5 at 5, Greg Gutfield, it's gonna get hostile. And this is where if they actually do what they've threatened, I don't know how it's unavoidable.
Well, for them to meet their end goals, we have to be disarmed.
And so, of course, this author, he mentions the internet, and perhaps the government will get more control over the internet. But if they, currently, if the government does something. If they don't take control of the internet, it's going to be out there. People are going to see what's going on.
Well, they want to take control of healthcare. They want to take over our right to protect ourselves. What the hell makes us think they're not going to take over the internet?
And
because it's about hate speech.
This author continues to theorize. And when I say president, that we're assuming a Democrat president, when President Trump loses. The Democrat president, he will want to mobilize the National Guard. Some governors may comply. Some governors may not comply.
We've already seen that.
Yep. And so if that's the case, then the president may have to relocate actual army units, and I've always thought this, as it becomes more of this, so becomes the high likelihood of martial law, and then once martial law is put into place, then it really does become game on.
No more elections.
The
Democrat will be ruler for life.
The theory is some in the military may abide, some in the military may refuse, and then we end up with a fractured country. And what happens beyond that?
Well, we become very vulnerable once we start fighting each other to outside attack.
I've always worried about the country breaking up into 2 or 3 different countries, actually. So could that be where we end up? I don't know. But this I would tell you this. The article I read came from the American Thinker by William, and I hope I get his last name correct, William Gensert.
Yeah.
And the title of the article is "No Matter Who Wins in 2020, There Will Be Blood."
And we will put a link to that article in the description.
So if you have a chance, read it and kind of just kind of consider some of the points that have been mentioned here. what could happen if Trump wins. Even if President Trump wins, it's not going to be a pretty picture. If he loses, it's going to be an even more ugly picture. So anyways, just something to consider. And that's a wrap, unless you have anything.
Yeah, I tell people if you don't have a weapon, get one.
And
Stock
practice.
up on supplies, because we live in Michigan, and if we're going to get a snowstorm, and it's always exaggerated, it's the apocalypse every time it goes to snow here, according to the local news. You can go to a Walmart, and it looks like the apocalypse happened. Everything will be gone from the shelves. There's only about a 3-day supply in stores for your your shopping pleasure.
Emergencies.
So yeah, for emergencies. So if it gets wiped out in a matter of hours and you have nothing, you're going to be in serious trouble.
All right. So, and if you get, remember, I've said this before: practice, practice, practice.
Train up.
If you're going to have a firearm, practice, practice, practice. Perfect practice makes perfect. Okay, and that's a wrap. As we say here at the Michigan Conservative Roundtable, be safe, watch your six, and don't tread on me. I kinda-